I must confess this is probably the most interesting Freelander I've come across lately. I say that because it seems to go a little faster than normal. Now, let's start with the basics. This car's interior, it's quite an impressive layout here actually. It looks quite almost aeronautical, I think. You've got every single possible button on here. I wouldn't even begin to fathom where they're all coming from or what they're all going to, but there's certainly a lot going on in this car. I'd say you'd have to go through a manual to understand that, and it looks a bit too confusing to be looking at while I'm driving down the road, so bear that in mind. The instrument cluster is pretty basically laid out, and it doesn't appear to be obstructed by the top of the steering wheel, which is always a good thing. Driving position is rather nice. It's quite a high seated position, and it's not quite like the old school Range Rovers where you feel like you're sitting on a bench. This is more like a saloon car feel, and the steering wheel isn't quite as low. The wing mirrors are huge, which is great. We like big vision. The rear view vision not obstructed in any way by the headrest at all of the rear seats, and I have to comment that is actually very, very rare in any car today. Automatic gearbox. Now the steering on this car is very responsive. The car does bounce around quite a bit actually. There's quite a bit of boating. I say more boating than rolling. It doesn't feel like it's pitching, it just feels like it's sort of bouncing from corner to corner. But if we pull over briefly, I'll do a 0 to 60 test because I think it's worthwhile doing one. 0 to 60, 3, 2, 1, go. It's slow on the beginning, bit of a lag there, but you get that with autos. And at 60 now. So this thing flies. I mean, it's not breathtaking performance, but you would most certainly be able to go down the motorway in this vehicle and overtake a lorry in the rain, no problems at all. In fact, I have to say I'm really quite impressed. It floats along quite nicely. It's got the same sort of speed and acceleration that I would come to expect from something like a 325 BMW. The interior I like too. It's got a luxury car feel to it. I know it's bigger brother, the Range Rover and the Land Rover are a bit more hardcore and certainly more luxurious, but there's nothing wrong with this at all. It's really quite an attractive vehicle. It's big, it's powerful, it's well put together. The interior looks like it could be used for a bit of sport or off-roading and maybe agricultural use. You're not going to be too worried about coming in here with some muddy wellies on. At the same time, you could drive down King's Road on a Saturday afternoon and it still wouldn't look out of place. The more I drive this car, the more I'm falling in love with it actually. I'm just going to do a brief roundabout test, see what the cornering is like, because it is a bit of a chuggy old wagon, this big old Chelsea tractor. Well, it does like the corners. It doesn't lean at all. I'm going around a roundabout now and I'm hardly leaning over at all. You're only really aware of the corner by your seating position. You struggle to stay in it, but the actual cornering of the car is superb. But I'm just so impressed on how this car accelerates. There is a lag at the beginning, as we've noticed, but once you put your foot down, this thing zips along. It's a bit low, bit light at the front, I think. Tends to lift up and down a bit. And the brakes, well, the brakes are fantastic. There's no grabbiness there. You can apply the brakes to the gradient. Feel all calipers working in perfect synchronization. I have to say I'm very impressed with this, and I've had a few Freelanders, but this particular model, it is ticked every single box. I think if you could get one of these with a bigger engine still, you'd have a car which was just as good as any Range Rover or Land Rover. I think this is an exceptionally good vehicle. I think if you're thinking of buying one, you've got to hunt around and go from model to model, but I can tell you now, this particular model ticks all boxes and it's a bloody good vehicle.